welcome back. Happy New Year. Welcome back to MSK Innovations. I'm your host, TJ Halverson, and we have a great group of presentations lined up today. Before we introduce our panel, I would like to thank our sponsor today, Orthopedics This Week, who is accelerating orthopedic breakthroughs by fostering connections within our community of surgeons, researchers, and industry innovators. And today we have three companies presenting: ComboSpine, Ziptek, and MedTech Solutions. On the panel, we have Chris Lyons, Kevin Rocco, and Drew DeAngelis, with a potential guest appearance coming soon. While we're waiting, would you each take a moment, Chris, Kevin, and Drew, to provide a quick introduction?
Sure. I'm CEO of Southern Metrics consulting firm. Been in the industry 37 years, and the last 18 years of that has been all mergers and acquisitions.
Great. Thanks for joining. Kevin?
Sure, I'll go. My name is Kevin Rocco. I'm a partner at Neovate Capital Partners. We're an early stage venture fund in life science with a focus on MedTech. And most people recognize me as the former founder and CEO of a company called BioRes, which sold to ConMed in 2022.
Thanks for joining. And Drew?
Yes, Drew DeAngelis, 38 years in the orthopedic industry, and for the past 26 years, I've been managing partner and founder of the DeAngelis Group, where we place breakthrough talent at breakthrough companies, just like what we have here today. And I, along with TJ, am a co-founder of this platform, MSK Innovations, and it's a privilege to be here, and it's a privilege to host such a great group.
Now, before we get started, just a quick note: MSK Innovations is not a broker-dealer nor an investment advisor. This venue is for informational purposes only and not to be considered investment advice. Please conduct your own due diligence prior to making any investment. And with that, we will get started with Dr. Ammerman at ComboSpine.
Well, thanks, everybody. Give me a minute. I'll go ahead and pull up our slides. Thank you all for the time this afternoon or this evening on where you're located. Can everybody see that fine, TJ?
Yes.
I'm going to assume that's a yes. And thank you to our panelists and our sponsors for having me here today. I'm Josh Ammerman. I'm the founder and chief medical officer for Combination Spine. Our business is focused around mating disc-based preparation and fusion. So as some of you probably know, the primary reconstructive surgical technique we use in spine surgery, almost regardless of the cause or etiology, is the interbody fusion. Interbody fusion involves the surgeon gaining access to the disc or the cushion between the spinal bones, clearing out that disc material, the cartilage, or as much as they can, and then placing an implant where that disc material used to be to serve as a structural support while the bone heals around it. You can think of the rebar in reinforced concrete. The problem that we have is we do a lousy job at cleaning out that disc material. It's tough, it's gummy, it's hard to work around the nerves to get to it. And when we do a lousy job and leave that material behind, it serves as a chemical and physical barrier to bone healing fusion. And about 30%, if you look critically at the literature, of our operations, particularly those through the back, which are the most common, fail to heal. That's a significant financial and patient-related cost, and that's the focus of our work. In addition, these operations are complex, they're time-consuming, they're inefficient. We all do them a little bit differently, which means none of us are doing them correctly, or at least not doing them in the optimal way. We take a whole lot of instruments and pass them in and out of the spine, past the nerves, which brings about a safety concern for nerve injury, which in an elective procedure sits at around 5%, which is pretty high. And because of all the equipment we need, if you look in the right upper hand corner, you'll see all the pans and trays I need to do this operation. There's a tremendous burden on sterile processing, the part of the hospital that cleans our equipment, supply chain that brings all this to us. The failure rate is high, and when that system fails, either the patient's exposed to an infection, or more commonly, throughput comes to a halt. And that's how we generate revenue in a hospital or a surgery center. We do it by moving patients through the system. And based upon the changes that are occurring in the environment, site-neutral payments, the elimination of the Medicare inpatient-only list, and the general alignment between patients, payers, and surgeons, we are moving surgery out of the hospital to the ambulatory surgery setting where each of these problems is magnified. So we have to address this. So I'm going to get right to it. Here's our solution, ComboSpine's Dex 360 interbody fusion platform system. It's a unique platform that combines a modular discectomy system, an end plate resurfacing tool, with a footprint expanding lumbar interbody implant. In brief, the system has 4 parts. It has an inserter here. This is the part the surgeon holds, and has a series of heads that attach to it, kind of like a modular screwdriver. Our BDR head up here in the corner is used to clear out the soft or gummy portion of the center of the disc. The disc prep head is what clears the margin of the bone where it attaches to the cartilage and sweeps that away so we have a clean surface to work with. And then we have a geometrically matched implant, large footprint expanding device, a parallel or lordotic configuration that fills that large defect from a support perspective. These are what the devices look like from a prototype perspective. For those of you with a background in spine, you might say to yourself, geez, that looks like a pretty standard inserter, and those look a lot like cages in their collapse configuration. That is by design. I wanted to develop a platform that would make the learning curve flat for surgeons. We like to hit things in straight lines with hammers, right? We don't like to turn, we don't like to move. That's exactly how our platform works. These are some shots from one of our lab sessions. The device or the heads come in various heights and lengths, as we would expect for interbody devices. What I want you to pay attention to are these panels, not the handsome guys in the middle. You can see the volume of disc that this platform is pulling out, right? Larger than the device itself. It's clearing the edges of the bone of all the cartilage without disrupting it, all the way down to the ligament that separates the abdominal cavity from the disc space itself, the anterior longitudinal ligament. This is a CAT scan of that cadaver before we started and after we finished. This is a 24 by 11 defect in the disc space made by a 24 by 11 device. We're able to clear a tremendous amount of material rapidly doing this, doing a far better job than we can do with conventional instruments. In terms of overall benefits, we can do this step of the procedure faster, both to clean out of the disc and deploy the implant, which is a throughput boon for us, trying to get more cases into the OR in the same amount of time. We need fewer trays. We'll look at the tray in a minute. It reduces the burden on sterile processing. That saves on labor costs at the weak point, the choke point, and all of this. And again, reduces the likelihood of failure. And from the patient perspective, which is what's most important, we do a better disc prep. When we do a better disc prep and we put in a larger implant, we can also add more bone graft. There's mounting evidence that shows the amount of bone graft you put in the disc space directly correlates to fusion outcome. And we can get twice as much bone graft in with our prep system than you could with a standard approach. The team, I'm not going to overly focus on this other than to mention our CEO, Craig Corrent, is a commercial export. Craig has led a number of companies through exit and acquisition. And the board members, besides myself, have a deep background in executive spine leadership with both Zimmer and NuVasive. In terms of regulatory reimbursement at IP, we have a very standard pathway through the FDA. Most of our system is Class 1, 510K exempt. The only thing that will go through the Class 2 pathway will be the implants, the part we leave behind. They'll be MAX code 510K, and we've identified predicates for them. We're supported by MRC Global from a regulatory perspective. On intellectual property, Cook Alex out of Chicago supports us. I am thrilled that our initial utility patent filed back in 2020, which is an awful long time ago, we've heard from the claims examiner that will be allowed. I check the website every day to actually see it for publication, but that's a big deal for us, covering our mechanism of action and the basics of our system. And for those that are not in spine surgery is well reimbursed to both the physician and facilities. I want to touch briefly on robots, which are a hot topic in orthopedics and spine. I think we would all agree that spine robots do a nice job planning, and they do a pretty good job placing the screws that support our spinal fusions while they heal. But they don't do much in terms of the decompression, the clean out, the preparation of the disc space, or the delivery of the interbody. Our DEX 360 platform, because of its mechanism and geometry, is the ideal end effector to put on a robotic arm to have it participate in these steps. And frankly, I can't figure out geometrically how anybody's going to do it anyway, other than utilizing our platform. And I can talk about more of this during questions if necessary. In terms of critical path, what most folks are interested in is where's the FDA lie in your future? We are from completion of fundraising, we think about 11 months from submission. In terms of our revenue modeling, right? We're Gillette, razor blade handle model. We don't charge for the handle, we charge for the razor blades. The razor blades in our set are our dual pack. That's a disc prep head and an implant head, sterile packed, that are mated per level. Right now, with zero volume, our cost of goods is about $900. We're looking for an ASP about $4,500, and we think we can probably cut that cost of goods approximately in half when we have volume. If you look in the right lower corner of the screen, that's the tray. Inserter, components to get the operation done, but that's it. We've taken 4 or 5 pans that you would normally see for disc prep and interbody delivery, and we've got it down to an 18 by 12 mesh tray, single tier. So huge impact positively on sterile processing and shelf storage. And if you've ever been in an ambulatory surgery center, there is no shelf space. You don't have room to stock all that stuff. So big impact for ASCs. The market, I think this group probably knows, but spine is a large market, about $4 billion globally, $1.8 billion here in the United States, and we're targeting $36 million in sales by year 5, which represents approximately 150 surgeon customers by year 5. Our current raise, our Series A is $3.5 million at a $7 million pre-money valuation. We intend to discount the first $500K for those that join us early. We previously raised a $290 safe back in 2024. And just to make it clear what my commitment to this project and work has been, I've personally put in about $750,000. So I am deeply committed to this work and believe in it. Our use of funds in terms of those dollars is a third. $1 million to get through the FDA is what we're budgeting, $1 million for inventory and product launch, and $1.5 million for growth capital, targeting in 27 a Series B raise of about $5 million. So in close, we truly believe we have something unique. Surgeons currently do a lousy job, and it takes them a long time to prep the disc space and put in the cage. We can do it faster, and we can do it better. The bar is not particularly high, but we are going to climb right over that, and that's something surgeons want. Our system is reimbursable. Prior attempts at this have failed, largely because they couldn't get paid for it. But by matching the system with a 1-to-1 geometric interbody implant, we're able to generate revenue and a charge for those hospitals. And we are trying to, as the old saying goes, skate to where the puck is going, not where it is now. Surgery is leaving the hospital. Our platforms need to be able to function in a small space from the shelf and from a sterile processing perspective. And that is what ComboSpine's Dex 360 is designed to do. Thank you all very much. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Great presentation. Thank you, Dr. Ammerman.
Thanks, TJ.
And we'll get your screen off here, and we will start some Q&A. And we have a little panelist switch out. Robin Young has joined us. Thank you, Robin, for coming in. Drew is a stand-in. So with
It's
that,
an
let's open
upgrade.
up Q&A. It's a bit of an upgrade. We won't tell Drew though. So with that, Chris, Kevin, Robin, time for some questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Ammerman. I think you've presented at least 100 times plus, right?
And
You nailed it. You nailed it
very much. I appreciate that.
I mean, it was really, really well laid out. You know, I've been in the industry now with the spine realm since this will be my 21st year. And one of the things that's been fascinating to me is how many companies swam around the idea of how do we do a better disc prep. And nobody nailed it, but I'm liking what I'm seeing here.
Thank you.
I think the model makes a lot of sense relative to the razor blade. My one question right off the bat would be, could you reduce it even more so for the ASC to where your inserters could be disposable?
It's a great question. We have grappled with that. We would love to have them be disposable. The issue, without getting overly technical, is there's a tremendous amount of torque where the driver meets the device. And that took a lot of design to solve. We worry with a fully disposable system, it won't be able to handle that torque. We may be able to make part of the inserter disposable and keep the drive shaft as reusable, or, maybe 8 to 10 time reusable, but it's something we want to explore. But from a proof of concept, we got to make sure it works before we go away from metal.
Okay. Yeah. And the other thing I was going to ask too is, what are you guys noticing relative to the time for a typical discectomy versus what you guys are able to achieve?
Sure. So again, we're comparing cadaver work to actual patients. So recognizing that most surgeons on our survey say that they spend in the mid-ground, there's people that say they spend no time on it. Most people spend somewhere between 18 and 22 minutes on disc space prep. And we're able to clear the disc space in about 4 to 5 minutes.
Awesome. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go. Dr. Ammerman, nice presentation, really.
Thank you.
I have a few different questions. I'll try to prioritize here. I guess the first is, I know you went through it very quickly, the FDA. Can you talk a little bit about what you think you have to do from an animal model perspective? I'm assuming there's a survival animal model for the cage, or no?
No,
Okay.
we will not have to do any animal testing.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So that's obviously great because it's going to save you a lot of money. But I'm curious if maybe you are thinking about doing that, and doing maybe a comparative study or something. How are you going to kind of make claims that at least the cage is as good as what people are using? Or
Sure.
the
So
disc prep plus the advantage, like you're saying, the disc prep plus your cage is potentially superior to standard of care.
Sure, absolutely. So it won't necessarily be through the FDA. Our plan will be to launch the device initially with a small group of KOLs. Part of their job is to give us feedback, but part of their job is to also give us radiographic and clinical data. We want data on, as Chris asked, time in the OR that you spend on disc prep, volume of disc material removed, I think are two key pieces. And then we'll need to track those initial cohorts of patients, right, to see that they go ahead and fuse, and then ask our KOLs to be at the podium presenting that data to our peers, because that's what we want to hear. We want to hear from surgeons how this works. So that's our plan in terms of our proof to the community. Again, everybody believes fusion devices work in the disc space. It will be very easy, I believe, to prove that this does the job better and faster, because we currently do a terrible job at this step. As I said, the bar is low with existing technology.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really helpful. And I'm not a spine person, so bear with me here, but it seems like the value proposition on the disc prep is really clear. And I'm curious if there may be a segment here where you have surgeons that are passionate about the fixation hardware and implants that they use, but maybe they want to use your disc prep. Is that also a possibility here?
Great question. So the answer is no, and I'll explain why. It's very appealing to want to do that. But when you look at our business case, it revolves around the package of the prep system and the implant from a reimbursement perspective. If
Right.
we break them apart, particularly through value analysis, the value analysis is now going to start to value each of those parts differently. And it's going to make it very difficult for us to bring the whole system forward, which is where, from a business perspective, the value really is.
Yeah, great. And so last question I have for now is the kit, as you're saying, through reimbursement. Do you have a sense on what you plan for an average selling price?
Around $4,500. There's a lot of
Okay.
dispute about what you should charge for a cage. We think that's a comfortable mid-ground.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
That's a good number.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. So, first let me tell you what I like about it. First of all, someone must have whispered in your ear early on that to be successful, you need to be cheaper, faster, better. And I think you nailed all three. So that's the first thing I like. The second thing I like is you won the Best New Technology in Spine Award. Done. All is proved.
Front and center.
What's left to talk about, right? The third thing I like is you went and used Mary. Using Mary is a fantastic group to use to put everybody who's got a new product idea should use Mary. They're phenomenal. And then finally, and I said three, but I'll throw one more in because this one's really where I think the questions for you have to come. And your hardest job right now is this. The other thing I like is that 80% gross margin. And the reason I like that, because you're going to be paying 30% to your distribution to get this thing to market, and you still have 50% left over after you spent that. So here's the acid test question for you. How are you going to get this thing to market?
Sure. It's a great question, Robin. And I think after the FDA, that's everybody's question. How are you going to get users? So a couple of answers to that question. Number one, it's independent distributors for us, right? That's the model that makes sense. And you already brought that up when you talked about the nut that we'll have to pay them. One. Two, being geographically focused on where we launch. East Coast, Southeast, right? We want to be able to localize our warehousing, fulfillment, and keep our shipping costs down. And then it's building believers. I think between myself and our CEO, we have access to a large number of surgeons that will give us an opportunity in the operating room to apply the tech. The other piece is value analysis, right? We have to penetrate value analysis.
Actually, yeah, I agree with that. But here's the thing:
Go ahead.
you're not an engineer with a great idea looking for a market.
Right.
You are the reason you won that Spine Tech Award is your solution is real practical. I mean, in every surgeon, that's why the surgeon panel voted for you. This is a basic problem every single day they face. So I wonder why don't you go, for example, one of the best logistics distributors out there is Crosslink in Atlanta. Got Doug Kraft in Atlanta. Those guys can immediately get you into hospitals and clinics, and you're ASC friendly and you'll be compatible with any robot system. In other words, all the objections you've dealt with it. So now you can offer a 30%, maybe even 35%, maybe 40% to get you going. And, maybe one of those big time distributors would take you on and help give you the seed money to get to market.
All I can say is we've definitely had some conversations as well with some large distribution groups, and it would be a wonderful partner for us.
Mm-hmm.
I love your product.
Yeah,
It's great.
It is a great.
Thank you
Slick.
very much.
Well, with that,
That's-
thank you again, Dr. Emmerman and Spencer Jones, for popping in as well. With that,
Spencer.
we'll move on to the next presentation. And by the way, Dr. Emmerman, there is some questions in the Q&A. If you can access those, you can respond. We'll go on to our next presentation with Dr. Bennett at Ziptek. Dr. Bennett, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank MSK Innovations for allowing me to present. It's good timing for us. Can you see my screen?
Yes, just put it into presentation mode and we'll rock.
Very good. So I'll start by saying I'm an orthopedic surgeon, been a solo practitioner for 30 years. This idea came to me for a better way to fix tissue about 30 years ago. This is our year anniversary of our launch, so we'll get to the commercialization efforts and where we are later in the talk. So we're located in Sarasota, Florida. I want to clarify also that actually 100% of our manufacturing is done in the United States in Jacksonville, Florida, Charlotte, and Chicago. I also like to clarify that we're FDA cleared for 24 indications for use. I'm going to use this rotator cuff paper to go over some data, something that points out some problems with the way we're fixing tissue right now. So the way we fix tissue right now is with a suture loop of some sort, a vertical loop, horizontal loop, cruciate type, hybrid types. In 2022, if you notice in arthroscopy, these authors are saying, hey, we got a problem here. Why are all these rotator cuff repairs not healing? Let's do biology. So they suggest adding PRP, stem cells, and graft augmentation. But what they don't mention is the way that the fixation is being done right now is not biologic. It's a permanently closed loop, which can interfere with healing and remodeling. So we sell single-use kits or repair technology, which I'll show you in a second. A very large market. These numbers are related to kits, single-use kits. So this is, if you've ever seen arthroscopic surgery, lower left, that's a double row. The bigger picture on the left is a suture loop. It's a re-tear. Some people are not familiar, but this material, that suture we're using, is the same as fishing line. It's called Dyneema. If you got a big fish on a line, you put a rubber glove on, otherwise it cuts your finger. So 86% of the time, the failures are due to the suture tearing through, and 24% of the time, that person may go on to re-repair. Now, it may be higher, closer to 50%, because some people will go on to reverse shoulder than a re-repair. So what we've done is we've taken the way the suture interfaces with the tissue and changes the mechanics. So suture loop technology, it creates a lot of horizontal vectors when we're trying to create a vertical compressive force. So inherently, there's some detrimental effects, which include the rip through, gapping, strangulation of tissue, and the big one is it never lets go. So it's a permanently load sharing system, which stress shields the tissue and doesn't let the tissue remodel. So I'm going to show a little bit of a video here. It's abbreviated. We have a limited time here. Go to 27 seconds. So basically here at 27 seconds here, when this starts in a minute, we're going to start seeing this. So really there's 30 million surgeries done in rotator cuff repair globally. And so this is what you see. Here's your simple suture, fiber tape, horizontal mattress, a double row configuration. You see the rip through and you see the gapping. And we've tested our technology, both biomechanically, biocompatibility. We've done implantation studies, so we outperform it related to preventing rip-through gapping. We don't strangle the tissue and we release, because these are resorbable buttons that work like a zip tie, and they go one way down a suture. And don't go in the opposite direction. And after a period of healing, they release and turn over the work to the tissue. Basic steps in a rotator cuff here. Then these buttons are pushed down with the driver, snip, 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 and away we go. So I just wanted to show you that's a nice visual of how they work. What we've seen too, I'll tell you, we have actually 4-year clinical validation. We got caught up in COVID, so we went to the sidelines for a while. But we do have 4-year clinical validation in shoulder, elbow, knee, foot, and ankle surgery. So not only are we seeing reduced revision rates below 1% in Achilles, Haglund's, in rotator cuff, but we're seeing this accelerated return to function based upon the stability that the buttons offer these repairs. 6 weeks post-op, 4 weeks post-op, 3 weeks post-op, and 1 week post-op rotator cuff repairs. So I want to mention too, there were attempts at creating resorbable buttons in times past in the late 90s and 2000s. One was 100% PLA, one was 100% PGA. The engineering was not right. The material was not right, created inflammatory responses. We've done our diligence, over $750,000 spent on biocompatibility testing. We've done a 3-week implantation study, a 3-month implantation study. We've done a 48-week comparison to a modified Mason Allen stitch in a chronic rotator cuff model. And we show we start remodeling as early as 12 weeks, and at 48 weeks, the suture loop is still scar. So there's quite a bit of money already into the company. I mentioned late 2019 is kind of when we started, and we almost disappeared, but we've got nearly $3 million in cash in already. I put nearly $750,000 in originally. Then a private investor came in about $2 million, and we're looking for some money for our growth right now. And I'll get to that in the commercialization that we've done over the last year. It's been a bit burdensome and a heavy carry, but we've accomplished some great things. Average cost of a resorbable implant, $24 million for FDA clearance. So as I mentioned, growth capital, which includes increasing our inventory. We have already actually started on a little product improvement, which isn't the button, it's actually in one of our screws, and so forth. We do have 28 patents issued in 10 countries in 3 continents. We have patent pending for some patent improvements. We have some publications on the product in the Journal of Arthroscopy already. And what I mentioned earlier, I think, though, is the biggest testament to the fact that this works so nicely, is that we have over 400 cases, and we might have one little case where somebody went in and cut out a little bit of scar, but really no revisions or no serious complication. We had really good people find us early on organically, frankly, on LinkedIn. Dr. Pete Mangle, and I actually think he's on the session with us. He's the chief of foot and ankle at University of Pittsburgh. Is past president of the American Foot and Ankle Foundation. He's done over 120 Haglunds. Joined us early. Dr. Michelle Ruiz, past president of the Mexican Shoulder and Elbow Surgery. He's done over 20 cases. He did the animal study. He's done one of the publications. I was just down there doing a cadaver lab with him. So they found us early. When we go on to any of the potential competitors, don't have similar things. Actually, we're very globally unique because we release. Our team here, we've had some sales help over the year, Eric Swanstrom, Reagan McNair. We may add this, at least potentially top-level CCO and orthopedic surgical PA. It kind of will fill some of the potential needs. We may not need it, but we're considering that. We're talking to somebody to be, as Dr. Hamerman mentioned, local, very strong presence in Florida here. And I'll tell you about our recent approvals in 2 university systems in Florida. But I want to talk a little bit about our base team, which is very strong. Kyle is an institution of himself. He's had outs of over 140 million sales. One of his chemical companies builds chemical boutique chemicals, polymers, sells jet fuel to the DoD and so forth. Adrian Ramos, past quality manager at Medtronics Mexico. Rams has started the biomechanical training at Monterey Tech in Mexico. Alistair Barrow, our logistics guy, Boston Scientific. We got a guy out of London that helps us. He's a good friend of mine in business side of things. And then we have our Mexican team. We are cleared in Mexico as well. So what do we do? since October, really November 2024 is kind of our launch, we'll call it, after COVID. The usual things that you're all going to do. We've actually been addressing all of this. We actually have raised already 1.3 of 3 that we're looking at, and going to look and consider potentially taking another 1.5 million. So these are pro formas. Average sales price has been mentioned before. Actually, we just increased it, and we've been approved at higher pricing. But let's just move on a little bit here let's talk about the commercialization. First meeting, October 24, after COVID. We hadn't been in the market. We weren't sure we're going to continue. Eastern Orthopedic Association, it was like we arrived. Biology caught up to us. We were saying, hey, we need biology in 2019. People thought the device was cool, but it was like they liked the widget. Biology wasn't being talked about as much. Now it's a big deal. This is annual podiatry meeting, a strategic already a group of guys looking at and talking about the product and so forth. So another award winner here in last year of Bio Florida is about 8,000 companies, and they have a competition, and we came in first place, grand premier winners, and that was against therapeutics, pharmaceuticals, diagnostic, oncological. So we're proud of that. It's very rare that MedTech med device wins, but we did. So it's kind of our year anniversary. So this is where we're kind of launching going into the year. So we ended up getting our certificates of foreign government to Mexico. We're also re-registered in Dubai. We had a few implants already put in Dubai, and that market's opening up again. We've created a healthcare advisory board. Quickly, I mentioned some of the people with big outs and their experiences. We've added scientific advisory board members, signed scientific advisory board members to a University of Pittsburgh, chief of trauma, University of South Florida, chief foot and ankle, University of Miami, chief of trauma, Indiana Health, chief of shoulder, Mexico City, and the fellow in Dubai is coming on as well. Those are all signed except for the Dubai. So what does 2024 look like, our launch? So we did Eastern Orthopedic. We won the innovation winner as you know, getting exposure. We did another pitch. We did the joint HSS University of Miami meeting, the Mark Institute training down in Miami. We were semifinalists in MedTech Innovators. We did the annual podiatry meeting, annual orthopedic meeting, and then things started getting interested in about this August, and our efforts of start to show some progress. We start getting a regulatory. Well, we were regulatory approved in Mexico. We added 2 new distributors, big distributors in Mexico. We can talk about that in detail if you want in the question and answer. Recent POs have come in though towards the end of the year. Mexico City, Monterrey, or Dubai, and even more recently in the last couple months of 2025, really exciting things have happened for us. So what did it look like our year? These are our accounts. That's where they are. We've got POs, PO ready, PO repeat POs at various stages. So recently, training 12 orthopedic surgeons in Mexico City. He's one of our KOLs. He's going to Dubai in 2 weeks. He's training surgeons in Dubai for us. So this is the big deal, though. The last 2 months was really exciting for us. So we are approved, order ready at Tampa General Hospital, which is a big deal. And we already received a PO. So now going into 2026, we've already received POs in the first week that would actually get us to their 2026 revenue if they come in every week like this. I was thinking maybe we hit that 2 million, run rate by 6 months or something, but who knows? It's a goal, and we're going to hopefully get there. Then all of a sudden, University of Miami, approved, order ready, University of Miami. All this came in the last 4 weeks. All of a sudden, Indiana Health System, approved, order ready. And then we've got training, as I mentioned, December. Training at Tampa General is coming up in January. These are all planned. And UAE training in 2 weeks. Training at University of Miami. Training at Indiana Health. And then February, we're doing Monterey training. And even today, we actually brought in some money to the bank from some of those POs. So it's a good way. We close the year strong, and we're starting out on a nice standing and going into 2026. Right. I mentioned biology is hot. Am I done?
Dr. Bennett, I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A here, and we've got about 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'm done. Just biology is hot. A lot of companies selling big numbers. and so forth in biology. We're showing our histology that is shown with some of these graft companies, and our device makes graft surgery a lot easier and faster. So with that said, that's the end. Thanks. Sorry, I ran a few minutes late and so forth. So
That's great.
Awesome.
questions that I'd love
Great.
to have.
We'll jump in quick and get rolling. That's
Yeah.
very good. Very good presentation, Dr. Bennett. I like the technology. I'm liking what I see. I have a couple questions around the material. The first thing would be for the button itself. What is it made of again?
So it's we're getting a little bit of the magic, if you would, and that we've successfully solved some prior problems. But I'll tell you that it's PLA and caprolactone.
Okay. Okay. And so have y'all done toxicity studies on how this can exit the body? Obviously, if it's a resorption type device.
Yes. So going back to that biocompatibility slide with the 750, we did every single category in 10993 testing.
Okay.
Subacute testing, irritation, systemic toxicity. Yeah, we did it all.
Okay. I like your growth curve. I think that's very realistic. A lot of times I see crazy ones. And especially in the market that we're in today, where there's, revenue barriers that we all have to bump up against. But that's smart. And I think it's the right approach, especially with the investors that you continue to go after. So you have outstanding 1.7 to complete the 3.
Yeah, 1.5, 1.7.
Okay. Okay. I think the last question I would have is, what is your pre-money valuation on that, if you don't mind sharing?
We've done a number of ways. We've looked at this 4 different models, and ChatGPT we used. We used it, our fellow MBA guy. ChatGPT is pretty accurate. So we're coming in around 20.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good stuff.
You're welcome.
I'll hop in. Hey, Dr. Bennett, nice presentation.
Thank you,
I
Kevin.
think I think this is a real problem in orthopedics. I think that, there are 500,000 plus of these a year in the United States, and sutures can tear through tendon, and there are a lot of type 2 failures. It's a problem, obviously, I've worked on a little bit myself. So I like that you're going after it. I like the simplicity of the concept. I'm wondering, one of my concerns is the button kind of popping off, or as it breaks down, causing any particulate in the joint. I'm wondering if you have any data. You showed that nice, it looked like a finite element model kind of thing showing how it works better, but I'm wondering if you have any head-to-head testing with other hardware, with actual load to failure or cyclic testing or anything around
Yeah,
creep. And
we had to do that extensively, obviously, for FDA approval. We had to do degradation studies. We had to do the implantation studies and so forth. One of the things that came up, we even did something that was very extreme in my opinion, but we did it. It's called leaching extraction. Somebody mentioned about, it's absorbable, very expensive test that you fast, degrade the resorbable polymer, and then you look at all the elements that come out, and then you do a risk analysis and a level and stuff. This is PLA caprolactone, but we had to do it anyways. But yeah, we've done all of that.
Yeah, so I guess I would say if you have some data on that that's either published or not yet published, it might be good to include that in the pitch deck just to give people some comfort around the quality of the strength and durability of your solution. And I think if you're comfortable around the strength and the durability, for the surgeon customers, then I think you can cross the bridge around the resorption and this other stuff. But I think this is a problem worth going after.
Yeah, thank you. We have all that. Some of our marketing material has all those numbers. We have white papers that are done and so forth. Our in order for us to we took a 510K pathway using a bone anchor. We're not a bone anchor company. We have titanium anchors, we have biocomposite anchors, but that's not our technology. It's in the button, correct? So in order for us to get FDA cleared, that we had to show that if you're doing pullout strength, that our buttons can compete with pullout strength. So there's certain things that we did, but one of our buttons, so we had to do the testing with a knot directly over the central hole. That will hold 80 newtons, one button, and there's 2 per suture. So you're getting, the suture will break before the buttons will break, is the bottom line. And additionally, if you take the suture and you slide it down one of the slots, it's nearly 140 newtons, one button.
Yeah, it's great. And about how long does it take to actually lose the mechanical strength on that implant?
So it loses 10% at 6 weeks. We know that from our degradation study. If you
Okay.
look closely, they're flex arms like this. So as the bead goes through, it collapses and then it collapses inward and doesn't let it go in the opposite direction. So that's where the mechanics are, right at the tip. We know that starts degrading enough where it stops doing the work starting in around 3 months, and it takes about a year for it to completely go away.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Robin, we got time for one question. In
Yeah,
about a minute.
real quick. So yeah, I'll just briefly comment. OTW this month is publishing a review of a journal of arthroscopy study that studies the exact problem you're addressing, and they're reporting that 33% of these tear between year 1 and 2. So that is, and your patient can come in after 1 year and say, I'm doing fine. But guess what? There's 1/3 chance they tear between year 1 and 2.
Hmm.
So you're addressing a big problem. I'm going to go back to a question Chris asked, and this is the only question I have. So if I come in and give you 3 million, how much of your company do I get?
At 20 pre-money?
20?
No,
I get
20
20%
20 million
pre-money or-
free money. I gotta do the math. So that's 23.
No, I'll tell you what, give me 20% afterwards and maybe we can talk.
Awesome. Well, Dr.
All right.
Bennett, thanks so much for the presentation. That was great. Anyone who has questions, whether on the panel or in our attendees, drop it in the chat or connect with Dr. Bennett afterwards. And with that, let's move on to our last presentation of the evening with Anthony Swoboda at MedTech Solutions. Anthony.
No, awesome, TJ. Really appreciate it. Here, let me get this in presentation mode. Does everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, good day, everybody, and thank you, MSK Innovations, for giving us this opportunity as an early stage startup to present. I'm Anthony Swoboda, CEO of MedTech Solutions, where we're creating a disruptive sacroiliac joint implant for chronic SI joint pain. With low back pain, the World Health Organization estimates that around 619 million people around the world suffer with low back pain, and that number is going to grow to 843 million by 2050. It is the leading cause of disability worldwide, and here in the United States, it's contributed to the opioid epidemic. But here with low back pain, SI joint pain can mimic low back pain in the form of sciatica, hip, thigh, and groin pain. Now, I'm sure everybody on this call has been told by their mother at one stage in their life that they've been a pain in their mother's ass. Well, it's true because around 70% of women or around 70% of chronic SI joint pain patients are women. And that is all attributable to the nature of a woman carrying a child for the 9 months, losing or gaining the weight, losing posture and other sorts of musculoskeletal gait. But after the birth, even with the birth, the SI joints are traumatized just due to the opening to allow for the delivery. But 5 to 15 years later, say that pain persists and it gets misdiagnosed and a spinal fusion is performed in the lower back. Now, again, trying to really hone in on the correct diagnosis here. And then 5 to 15 years later from that patient has a hip replacement. So between the lumbar spine and the hip, you have the SI joint that is being affected. And again, looking for the correct diagnosis and treatment. Furthermore, around 30% of low back pain is misdiagnosed when the SI joint is the pain generator. And then if the spinal fusion does occur or is done, around 40% of those will have adjacent level SI joint pain. So the solution to this problem that we've created is the Flexus posterior SI joint fusion system that will be a 3D printed titanium composition that will have different constructions to allow flexibility in the implant. Now, why flexibility? Well, if you look over here on the axial view on the right, the SI joints can sometimes be C-shaped or asymmetrical. So you need something to really get around that corner versus a standard static, parallel cage. Also, we'll have compositions on the implant for bony on growth, as well as a external fixation method that is yet to be decided. Also, we're aiming to have less than 10 instruments and looking to reduce this procedure under 45 minutes. Currently, the competition, laterals have been, kind of the bigger bugbear in the market, but there are issues with that. From the lateral approach, lots of IIs or X-rays needed, but also, implants can loosen just like you see with pedicle screws in a lumbar spine, and you can have loosening and then lucency around the implants. The implant's too long, then it'll go into the bowels, and then obviously makes for a longer afternoon. So we're moving on to the new frontier from a direct posterior approach that will allow, easy dissection into the SI joint, flexible instruments as well to get around curves, etc. Unlike the competition here. Currently, the market is around $700 million, and that will grow to well over $2 billion by 2030. With our go-to-market plan, we want to focus outside the United States pre-FDA, and we've kind of put some targets on New Zealand, South Africa, and even Australia in that, and those conversations have commenced. Taking a few patients and following them, and then using that for clinical data, like white paper type data, to help us through VAC approvals once we're FDA approved. Also, take those learnings to create intensive training courses for a U.S. regional launch east of the Mississippi River, but including Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Currently, reimbursement is available. It is, sort of being discussed and honing down to, singular codes at this point, but it is increasing in a surgery center environment. And again, those codes have been identified, and this is one of the highest paid procedures for orthopedics in a surgery center. Our team consists of industry veterans that have done this before, including myself with Medtronic and NuVasive, but also with Dr. McAlery as a pain management physician, practicing for over 50 years, brings a lot of insights into this problem. And I think everybody on this call knows Lisa Ferrara, and Troy Drury, who I've worked with for my whole career, is handling a lot of the product development load. So currently, as of last year, we had submitted some provisional patent at the end of August, and we've got some current designs that are being reviewed. But looking at finalizing those designs this year, and then do the testing with the goal to submit to the FDA toward the end of the year, and looking to launch in 2027 once we're cleared. Right now, our current ask for a seed round is $750,000, with the total needed to be $3 million. And the 4 key milestones that we're looking at are first in human implantation OUS, USF 510K clearance, the limited launch at 10 sites, and then ongoing revenue from there. Thank you again for your time and attention, and I open it up to questions by the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Nice presentation.
Absolutely. Good job, ma'am. Yeah, Anthony and I have known each other for years because of our Medtronic affiliation. So good to see you. Great to see this tech. With SI fusion, the big question is there's such a smattering of so many different technologies. I like your approach to the curved element of this. The question that I've got is, if from a posterior standpoint, how wide, or will you have to have multiple widths of curvable implants to make sure you can address every SI joint out there? And what does those widths look like?
Yeah, so currently we're just looking at, kind of one width, and then down the road looking at really small sort of PLIF-like implant width. But right now it's around 26 to 30 millimeters kind of wide.
Okay. Okay. And the next thing I was going to say too was, um, if you think about the workflow that a lot of the docs are used to today versus what this may require, especially with the curved element, and how do you assure with your instrumentation you're staying on track?
Yeah, so we'll still use a little bit of intraoperative X-ray to kind of check the position. Obviously, being titanium, you'll be able to see it, and
Mhm.
even from a lateral, you can see kind of the curvature anteriorly of the sacrum to where that's sort of your definitive point. Not saying you need to get all the way down to that point, but just enough to get around that, the corner to kind of distract it a little bit and use the ligament ataxis of the posterior ligaments to bring it all back together.
Okay, my last question, I'm shutting up for the rest of the call. Uh, when it comes down to your customer base, what is y'all's philosophy? This is a critical one these days as it relates to the surgeon versus the interventionalist. Choose
That's
your
right.
poison.
That's right. Well, right now, especially with Dr. McAlery on the team, we're kind of venturing into that interventional pain space because
Mhm.
that seems to be where those guys are going from a posterior approach. But not to say there's going to be orthopedic and neurosurgeons that are going to be out there that are doing these procedures that this would, be right up their alley.
Okay, thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Yeah, hey Anthony, nice presentation. I have a couple of questions. This is new to me. I've seen a couple of companies in this space though. When I hear flexible implant for fusion, my immediate reaction is, bone fusion, you want to limit any motion, any micro motion to get the bone to fuse. So, you know, do you have any evidence that shows that your implant achieves enough fixation that's equivalent to things that exist to prevent motion already, or is that part of the preclinical test plan here?
That's part of the preclinical test plan. I guess a similar analogy is kind of think of it as a doorstop, kind of getting in there and holding it together. It's not going to be swimming in there. It'll be tapered tip to kind of distract it and fit it in there. And you don't want too much distraction in this part of the body. So again, limiting all that.
And then the implant itself can curve in any direction, or like is it like a slinky? Like
Well, that's the exact analogy, but not going too far. It's not going to
Sure.
flex like a slinky, but just enough to fit all anatomy.
So then the last question I had is just how's the surgeon, maybe you explained it and sorry, how are you actually preparing the site for the curvature? Do you also have curved drills, or how does that actually work?
Yeah, so we'll look at incorporating, the flexibility in the distal tip of the instruments as well, like kind of like an interbody prep kit type thing, but have some flex on that so that it will allow for that to get down and around.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm also trying to get a handle on what the point of differentiation is. That's a valuable enough point of differentiation that it's worth bringing to market. I think that's not quite clear yet. So the core problem that you define in your presentation is the basic problem of the SI joint problem, which has been addressed very adequately by a number of companies. And there's a significant amount of clinical information that that problem can be addressed effectively by current products on the market. So you're coming into kind of a crowded space. What is the one thing you're going to deliver that is substantially better than everything else out there, such that it will prompt a surgeon to not use SI bone, not use Nevro, not use any of the other products out there? What's the big feature you deliver?
Yeah, no, thanks, Robin. I kind of went into this with looking at spine surgery and how it's evolved, and quite simply looking at interbody fusion, with PLIFs and TLIFs, and I had a lot of experience with A-lifts down in Australia, but then seeing the advent of X-lift and O-lift. So kind of compare it to that, with the lateral approaches, yes, you have these rigid screw-like devices that will go across, but are you really getting fusion within the joint? You may be getting bony on-growth onto the implants, but not necessarily fusion across the joint. And also from a posterior approach, some of the techniques out there require box chisels, et cetera. And if you're taking too much bone off that cortical shell, you can see subsidence, and that is in the MOD database. So something that will allow kind of a soft fusion, if you will, to where you're not taking a whole lot of bone with a big bulky box chisel, but allowing the implant to do its work and be the cushion to get in there.
But there's this dichotomy. It looks great on the x-ray. I got my fusion, but my patient is still miserable. So again, the thing that pays the bills is an outcome. And right now, what do you think how are you going to be 10% better outcome, 100% better outcome? What do you, because you haven't tested it yet, but
That's
what do you
right.
think?
What to the current standard of care?
How are you
I
going to
think we
prove?
could,
How are you going to prove above that?
yeah, so we want to take it to the next level with, a lot of the outcome studies out there are mainly around pain itself, but we want to get some objective measurements out there with, gait analytics with technology that is available to put on
What does
patients
Lisa
to show.
what does Lisa think? What does
Oh,
Lisa think?
yeah, Lisa is, 100% on board. She's fascinated.
What is she saying that you're going to deliver that's an incremental improvement? What is she saying?
Well, again, so you're not, yeah,
She's seen all the systems. She knows.
of course. So you're not taking bone. So anytime you take bone, it's painful, right? So
Yeah.
you're not taking as much bone away to get an implant like this in because of its flexibility and adaptability to that joint.
Okay. All right. Very good. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah. Very good.
All right. We have time for one more question if anyone has it.
Let's see.
not-
Yeah, hold on a second. I was trying to be economical.
Robin, you're on a roll. Let's keep going.
Are you cheaper? Are you cheaper?
We're going to
Can you
be
be cheaper?
Yes, we can.
How much cheaper can you be? Maybe.
Maybe a few $1,000s.
So maybe 30% cheaper, 40%
Yeah,
cheaper.
between 25 and 40% comfortably.
Are you going to be faster? Are you going to get it in there faster, easier?
That is the
By the way,
goal.
To me, that's
I love
the
the
key.
approach. I do. I love that approach. That's the right place to be rather than putting in the rods from the, all that kind of, that's very morbid. Getting that little, that's you putting it in the right spot, I think.
Anthony, never. I love Robin's question. Just never say you're cheaper. You're less expensive.
Absolutely. Better value.
There you go.
That
There
more,
you go.
yeah. There you go. Creating
Value.
value.
You're not.
Great.
But no, seriously, because you're going to you want to kick someone out of the OR, right? You want
That's right.
yours in there and kick the other guy out. And that, and the surgeon's used to the other guy's product.
That's right.
You got to really give them a good reason to change over. So,
And the devil's going to be in the instrumentation technique detail.
absolutely.
It's going to be how much of the workflow shift if Dr. Ammerman was doing an SI fusion is he going to be exposed to? That wins the day.
Absolutely.
Well, great presentation, Anthony. And likewise to Dr. Ammerman and Dr. Bennett. Thank you all for joining. Great event today. Thanks to Chris and Robin and Drew for a moment and Kevin Rocco for joining us. Please reach out to the presenters if you have any additional questions or to myself or Drew at MSK Innovations. We have a special event next month, so register today, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening. Take care, everyone.